So in this video, we're going to look at how we would create a 2-point perspective drawing of the little isometric camera. And this features in your orthographic workbook, but we're going to take this object and we're actually going to try and create a 2-point perspective of it. So I've started off with a vanishing point at either side. So one on the left, one on the right. I've just called them vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2. My horizon line is quite near the top of the page, but what I've done is I've pushed it out a shot a little just so that we can see more of the graphic, more of the drawing in the video. I'm going to keep the little image of the camera just quite near the bottom so we can use that as a reference. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, just on my little drawing here, I'm going to extend the size of these lines, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just forming a little crate, a box that this would fit into. To do that, I'm going to start with my leading edge, probably quite near the middle of the page. I might go a little bit off to the right-hand side even, and I'm going to get my leading edge going down there. What I'm going to do is near the bottom, I'm going to mark where my starting point is, and I'm going to approximate the height of the camera. So that's my height there. And I'm going to take both of those lines, just going back all the way to the vanishing point. And it's really, really critical in our 2-point perspective sketches that we are always going back to the vanishing point. Otherwise, the technique doesn't work the way we want it to. You need to make sure you're keeping everything really, really light as well, because we can line it in heavy at the end. And it also means that if you do make a mistake, it's easier to rub out, or potentially we can just leave it there and ignore it. Now, once I've got my left and right hand side, what I need to do is decide on my depth. Now, even though in an isometric you would keep all your sizes really accurate, with a perspective sketch, you want to shorten those depths just a little bit. If you keep them the same length, actually the perspective is going to look a little bit wrong. So looking at the side of this object, I know I'm going to have to divide this up later on. So I'm going to look and say, right, that's my depth there. And I'm going to say that that is my overall length. I've approximated them, but it's really, really important we keep vertical lines and they keep parallel to the one at the front edge. So I'm going to add that one there and that one there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take them both back to the opposite vanishing point. So the one on the right-hand side here is going back to that vanishing point over there. And the one up here is going to go over to vanishing point 2. So once they've gone over, what I've done is I've actually formed a box that will fit everything in except this little handle here, these little buttons at the top, and the little kind of cylinder sticking out that little lens at the side. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to work on getting this little cutout section here. So I'm going to start by getting that edge, and then that one, because that's going to help with the rest of it. So this goes just less than halfway, so I'm going to mark that in. And I'm going to go vertically up, because that's literally just going to give us that side there. Once I've got that, because it intersects with this line here, I go to the opposite vanishing point. So basically you're looking for everything to go back to the vanishing point at some point. This goes just beyond halfway, so I'm going to look along this line, which is here, and I'm going to go just beyond halfway. And now I'm not just going to go back to the vanishing point, I'm going to go from it as well. I'm basically going to go right through this point. So starting at vanishing point 2, I'm going to extend all the way through the front of it, because that will help me get that front edge line there as well. I've already got this one, and this one, and this one. So I'm actually well on the way to getting this top surface. Now I'm just going over it a little bit more firmly. Don't line it in at this stage, because if you do, you're going to have an issue trying to go over the top for the little viewfinder and the shutter button at the top. But once I've added them in there, it gives me this area round at the side. What I can then do is I'm going to take from the bottom and I'm going to look for getting over to here as well. So I'll start by taking that back to the vanishing point. And I've now got a line that would help me with this surface, but obviously this doesn't go all the way back. I can start looking for this little area here. Now that's maybe a third of the way, maybe less than a quarter. So on this section here, I'm going to look for roughly there. And this time I'm going to take that back to the vanishing point. What that's then given me is this little section along the bottom here. And now I can start to look at how I get this little area here. Now this is a little bit trickier. It's not as easy as lines just intersecting and I was working it out. I'm going to start by just getting a vertical line for this edge here. So I'll add that up. Now we know it doesn't touch anything at the top, so I'm just going to have to decide on a height for it. Now if I was to look back at this little view here and say I was just projecting that back, you can see that that looks as though it's going about halfway up here. So what I can do to help me work out where it is on this line is on this back edge, which is now a lot shorter because we're using perspective, I'm going to find the halfway mark. I'm going to extend forwards from the vanishing point. So extending forwards from the vanishing point until it matches that line, so until it hits here. What that then gives me is this front edge I was looking for, that one here. It means that what I can do is I can join this up, literally going dot to dot for this one. I've lined that in because nothing else is going to obstruct it. I now need to get the position for this line so I can find out this one and get the last part of that slope. This time I am going to go from the junction, this one here, and I'm going to go back to the vanishing point. And what that's going to allow me to do is look for that little change of direction, project it vertically up. Where they cross over, I can line in. And now what I'm able to do is join that dot to dot. So you see in this process, I have started with the crate, but some of it's involved coming forwards from the vanishing point. Some of it involves finding other intersecting lines. Finding out the position of the viewfinder is again about deciding some positions on this back edge and projecting forward. It becomes a little bit easier to do that. So what I'm going to look at is it's quite a tight gap. So just coming in marginally from the edge and then looking at how far that would come would maybe be about there perhaps. It will always be a little bit narrower on the back edge, so just bear that in mind because it will get wider as you project forward through that first vanishing point and through there. What that allows me to have is a width for the button. It doesn't come as far as the halfway point, it's quite narrow. So I'm going to mark a little position on here. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to project through that. And what I've now got is a little section where I can get the position of that button. So it's this little rectangle here, quite near the back. To get the height of it, I would just mark one position height of there. And then what I should be able to do is use projecting from the vanishing point to get how far forward it is and get the height that way. And then go back the way from there and from there to be able to work out the length of it, which gives me that, and then going back from the top. And some of these lines might start to overlap, but what you should get is a little button that elevates out of there. It's the same technique for the viewfinder. The difference is it's a little bit taller. It's also a little bit further forward, and we've got an indicator of where that finishes, almost in line with this line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to help me. I'm going to look at this line where it's projected back from here, and I'm just going to come in just ever so slightly. It goes quite near to the button, so I'll give it some space there. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to project from the vanishing point, take it through there, and take it through there. The viewfinder sits a little bit forward from the shutter button, and it doesn't sit as far back. So what I'll do is I'll come forward from that line here to know where my back edge is. And again, if you're unsure of a size, because it is a sketch, you can approximate. The main thing we are trying to do is keep everything in proportion. That gives me a position here for my viewfinder base. Remember, I'm lining a little bit more firmly so you can see that on the video. You would keep it very, very light. What I'll then do is from this edge, I'm going to take a line up and one from here, just going from each of the corners. I'm going a little bit taller than the actual height of the viewfinder so I can decide exactly what my height would be. I look and see how much of a difference, and it's quite a significant difference. So what I'll do is on this front edge, I'll mark my height. I'll then go back to the vanishing point from here, and you can see it overlaps there, and that should allow me to get the rest of that top surface of the viewfinder. And where they intersect with the vertical, what I can do is take it back to the vanishing point, and that will close off the top surface. So I've got the top surface of the little viewfinder. And what you would then be able to do is add your little rectangle and your recess onto the front of that, which I'm not going to demonstrate in the video. That's something we would want you to work out for yourself. The last part is the little cylinder on the front. Now this is a really complex process, and what we would do is we would show that as a separate video altogether. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to that as part of a separate video. The last thing you would need to do in terms of this view is you would have to add in your little hook or handle at the side here. The process is very, very similar to what you did for the shutter button and for the little viewfinder. You would start by identifying the base of it, but this time you would project forward from it. Now that's positioned about midway through this little section here. So what I would do is along the bottom, I would pick where it starts and where it finishes. I would give myself a position for it. And it just so happens that some of the lines I've already marked for this one probably form quite a good position for where it would start and finish. So I'm going to use that as my kind of bit where it would join into the actual camera body. I'm going to project out from my vanishing point, so from vanishing point 1, basically projecting all the way forward. Same again for this one here, and the same at the top. Once I've projected all the way forward from it, what that should allow me to do is decide on this line or on this line how much it sticks out. It doesn't stick out a huge amount, probably about there, probably about the depth of that body now actually. And then what I'm able to do is project that one back, and that will give me my surfaces for here and for here, and I can join that up. Now what you maybe notice is that there's a slight slope on that. It's shown in the actual main orthographic drawing. So all I would need to do from there is decide how far on this edge it comes up, probably about there. I would join the two together, and then it would be a case of taking that back to the vanishing point, and again it just happens to line up with one of the lines I've already got. Might not work out exactly like that in your own one, it just depends on your estimated sizes. You just need to remember to take it back to the vanishing point. In terms of the little opening, it's just rectangular, so I would create a parallel line here, a parallel line there, and then take the height of it back to the vanishing point and take the base of it back to the vanishing point. It would give me that little opening here, and then I would just take that little inside edge to show that it's hollow back to the vanishing point. And now in a separate video, we'll look at how we would form the cylinder.